What's good? What's good? What's good? NBA YouTube. This is your boy Ross with The Rock Never Stops coming to you with another video. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about Ben Simmons. It's kind of an overdue conversation. I didn't think I was going to have this conversation at this point. Thought he would have already been traded, but I think it's time for me to dive in on this situation and really kind of set things straight for a lot of you casual fans. Stop watching ESPN. Now, I'm saying this not because I'm hating on ESPN, but I'm saying this because ESPN oftentimes has like a dominant narrative where they decide what they want to talk about and they'll streamline all the conversations with questions that kind of point to what they believe needs to be discussed. And when it's come to Ben Simmons, they've just gone too far. Ben Simmons knows it. Rich Paul knows it. I think even the 76ers know it. And the 76ers are probably pissed off at ESPN for creating this kind of narrative around why they should get rid of Ben Simmons. And it seeped in so much that it's gotten in Ben Simmons' head. And now he's just probably sick of it. He's probably sick of it. He's probably done. Not so much just with Philadelphia and failing to really put things together, but honestly, he's done with sitting around waiting for his turn. He's done with waiting to be the star that he knows he is. I did a video recently about superstars and why they want to move teams. And it was on Carl Anthony Towns. But there's very similar sentiments. When you're a superstar, meaning that you're multiple time All Star, you're solidly positioned in that bracket of top 15, 25 players in the league. You don't want to be drowned in conversation and narratives around what you still need to do to get better so that your team can somehow get over the hump. You're already a superstar. You're already a superstar. You're already better than 90% of the league. It's not your job to be perfect in order for your organization to put the team around you that allows you to get to where you're trying to go. And it doesn't matter. Now, normally, if you're in a big market, you get some more leeway because it's like, where else am I going to go? But when your organization fails to see or communicate to you through their actions that they recognize how great of a player you are, that's when you start to get frustrated. That's when you start to get discontent. And eventually you ask out. Now, it's interesting because when I see this dynamic between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, I'm going to be honest with you. They're probably going to end up doing a Shaq and Kobe sit down after they both retire. And they're going to look back and probably say, we should have worked it out. We should have figured it out because we went to our own respective teams and we balled out and we were great, but it was a lot harder not having somebody just as great as I am next to me. And I took for granted how big of a difference you made on the court. I took for granted everything that you brought to the table. And that's what most casual, especially casual NBA fans fall into, where they take greatness for granted. Let me start by pointing something out to you. Ben Simmons is a 6'10" point guard. We haven't seen anything like that since maybe Magic Johnson or LeBron James. He's literally a point guard. Giannis is not a point guard. He's a big man who's able to bring the ball up the court. He can grab a rebound and he can advance the ball with his handle. He has a good enough handle to do so. But he's not somebody who sets the table for his team. He's not somebody who's running strategy in his mind about getting guys the ball in the right position, getting his offense running. They tell him to grab and go to get easy buckets. He's not a point guard. Ben Simmons is a point guard. He gets everybody in position. He's somebody who runs the show. You see, you have to understand that the reason why Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson were able to work so well is because one, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, for one, was 10 times more mature than Joel Embiid. It's not to cat on Joel Embiid, but it's to acknowledge that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had already won a championship in Milwaukee, right? Delivered. He delivered with Oscar Robinson over there. And he came to the Lakers because he wanted to be someplace that he wanted to be. He chose to be there in an organization he felt he was going to be comfortable in. He was returning to LA, where he went to college at UCLA. And he was somebody who thought differently. He wasn't into the whole, I want to be in the spotlight, I want to be the man. He was confident and comfortable in who he was. He didn't need to prove anything to anybody. He's still that type of dude. He does things like write essays, and talk about social justice. Joel Embiid is doing TikToks. Two totally different individuals. Totally different. So when Magic Johnson comes up, granted, they were already in the NBA Finals with Magic Johnson as a rookie. So Kareem, who's the captain of the team, I mean, his nickname is Captain, right? He leads you to the promised land by himself. He can carry you. He was one of the greatest players of all time. All right. Joel Embiid is trying to get there. He's trying to get there. But when Magic stepped on the scene, Kareem was wise enough and insightful enough to say, you know what? Come here, Magic. You're going to be excellent with us. Granted, they already had other superstars like James Worthy, right? Big game James came out of North Carolina, ball with Jordan. And even Jordan recognized how good James was. And James recognized how good Jordan was. But to say that there were already other great players, that Magic was able to come up underneath and play this team game before he was ready to really take on the show and be that dude, be the centerpiece. And even then, Kareem was great. Joel Embiid, I'm going to be honest, to a great degree, he's taken Ben Simmons for granted. The entire organization has taken him for granted. When you look at Ben Simmons, he's not just a 6'10" point guard. He's also first team all defense in the NBA. Runner up for Defensive Player of the Year. He guards the point guard through the center. Literally. He's quick enough. His first step. Yo, when I compare Magic to LeBron to Ben Simmons, one of the things that Ben Simmons has over all three, one is the handle, the quick first step. And I would say his level of sustained defense. LeBron has been able to kind of like turn up the defense in the playoffs. Ben Simmons is playing all NBA first team defensive player of the year runner up defense year in, year out. LeBron had a couple years in Miami where he played that level of defense throughout a whole season into the playoffs. But Ben Simmons does that regularly. So I would give him the edge as a defender just in terms of what he's bringing night in and night out. But then you have to understand he's also an amazing passer. He's got the gift. Ben Simmons has the gift. He has that sight to be able to see passes opening up before they open up. Kind of reminds me of a Jason Kidd. He's setting you up, delivering the ball where you need to be. So as you chase the ball, you actually get into position, into a better position than where you were before you even thought you was going to be open. Ben Simmons is a natural point guard. But now here's the thing that everybody wants to critique. Oh, he doesn't have a jump shot. He doesn't shoot. Look, for Magic Johnson, even LeBron James, they're rhythm shooters. Rhythm shooters. In other words, they're driving to the basket 3, 4, 5 times, getting layups, fouled, going to the free throw line before they start even shooting deep. What does that mean for Ben Simmons? When you're getting a lot of touches because the team evolves around you, you're able to get into a better rhythm, which gives you confidence stepping into your jump shots. But when Ben Simmons has to play kind of a second fiddle role and Joel Embiid takes up so much space inside the key, he's literally limited in what he can do. This isn't the Lakers. I'm going to be honest. If I was to compare generations and eras, there's more talent in the NBA today than there's ever been in terms of elite talent. Elite talent. I mean, you got guys like Joe Dumars. I'm not trying to crush on Joe Dumars, but he's like a 6'3" shooting guard going to the All-Star game. 6'3", trying to defend a 6'6" uber athletic Jordan. Now a 6'6" great athlete who can shoot. You're like, yeah, there's a bunch of those. Zach Levine, Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, there's a whole lot of those guys. Back then, there was only a couple. Doesn't negate their greatness, but it's to say that we have to make sure that we understand what we're talking about here. Ben Simmons knows who he is. And when we saw Giannis last season, I'm telling you right now, Ben Simmons could have done every bit of that. You give him 3, 4 seasons with a team built around him, I guarantee you're going to see it. God willing, without injuries, knock on wood, you would see Ben Simmons balling out in that way. You will see Ben Simmons taking over big games. You'll see him growing into being that guy who has to take those tough shots and being willing to put his team on his back because he's that guy with other guys who support him. Now, for me, I think the perfect landing spot is probably with the Portland Trailblazers. I'm interested in the Denver Nuggets, though, because as much as I like Michael Porter Jr., he plays one in, plays offense, and that's great. But what do you need next to a Nikola Jokic? Great defenders, great mobile defenders. Now, I could see Denver trying to put together a package of Aaron Gordon and some other guys to keep Michael Porter Jr., but I don't see Philly taking that type of a deal. Instead, I see Philly going after somebody like Damian Lillard. The problem is they're going to have to wait because Dame wants to win where he's at. And so he's probably going to say, "Nah, I want to ride this out." So what they may end up having to do is say, "You know what? Let's wait until the trade deadline. If Portland's slipping at all, if they're seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th seed, which they could be, especially if somebody gets hurt a little bit, yo, Dame is going to be like, it's time to go. I'm not going to waste another season. I'm not going to have another first round flame out. I'm not going to do it." And so you might see that trade happen then. But if I'm honest, I'd love to see Ben Simmons and Clutch Sports with Rich Paul do their thing and tell Daryl Morey, yo, get in the back seat. You know what this is. It's about player empowerment. It ain't about owners and general managers trying to control everything, wasting people's primes, playing games, trying to manipulate the media to think that it's the player's fault when really you just haven't done your job. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, it's a tough situation because Joel Embiid is dope. You can't look at Joel Embiid and be like, oh, you shouldn't try to focus on him, even with somebody like Ben Simmons, because he's that good. But the problem is they should have never had to choose. They should have never had to choose. If if Joel Embiid was mature enough to take the stance of, look, Ben, you're just as good as me. So I want you to get going. And I'll take this step back when I need to so that you can take a step forward. Especially in the before last season, when Joel Embiid had been consistently struggling to stay in shape, to keep his weight down and play a full season and be ready for the playoffs. Yo, why wouldn't he take a big step back, especially throughout the regular season, and go like, Ben, become a MVP? But you had to understand, he's not Kareem. He didn't have the accolades already. He hadn't won any MVPs. He didn't have an NBA championship. Joel Embiid still has a lot to prove. And so now they're kind of like unconsciously, almost indirectly at times, pitted against one another. Who's going to be the man? And you know what? They didn't have a strong enough coach at the time or front office to come in and be like, look, we're going to squash this. We're going to dead this early. You both are going to figure this out. And we're going to put the pieces around you. Now, I thought that they took too long to move on from the coach. I get you had the whole, trust the process. You want to give that coach a little bit more time. But if I'm real with you, yo, once you saw those two were all stars, and you knew this coach wasn't the dude, you got to get him up out of there. If Elton Brand had got him up out of there a season sooner, he might still be the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers. But I digress. Ben Simmons is through with it. He's tired. He's done. Finito. It's a wrap. I'm out. Deuces. Peace. I holla at you later. He's at that Anthony Davis space where he's like, look, don't start the season with me. It's going to be ugly. I'm done. I'm done. And you know what? It's about damn time. It's about damn time. Because you can imagine Ben Simmons with a stretch center next to him, like a Miles Turner. Yo, yo, can you picture that? A stretch center with a bunch of shooters, 3-and-D guys, a nice wing who can do some playmaking, score in the crunch, maybe a point guard who can set the table a little bit, but also play off of them and stretch the floor like Giannis has. Yo, Ben Simmons will go ape. You're looking at 23, 25 points a game, easily 10 plus assists, 10 plus rebounds, averaging a triple double. I mean, it would be his team. And the level of responsibility that he'd be able to take on, you would see a Giannis type elevation in his game. And so right now, my hope is for the casual fans, yo, chill on listening to ESPN and the whack Stephen A. Smiths who just run behind front offices trying to say what they want them to say. Yo, you're going to have to figure this out. Talent is also contextual. And in the right context, it can bloom and be amazing. In the wrong context, it can get overlooked and diminished. So kudos for Ben Simmons finally getting to that breaking point and say it's time to move on. It takes a grown man, mature man to know when it's time to move on, and he's doing that. He's doing that. So with that, that's the end of this video. It's a wrap. It's your boy Ross. If you like the video, like, subscribe, leave some comments. I always comment back. If you got some video ideas, let me know too. All right. With that, peace.